I'm Josh Weiss, and
I'm Tim Jones.
And this is Communication Hack. This is our inaugural program, our video blog, and we are people who love communication and the different things about communication, and so we thought we would do a video blog on communication hacks. So you can find out more at communicationhack.com. And this is ComHack. So today in this first program, I thought that we could chat through some of the deeper thinking things around communications. I am not somebody who's big on postmodernism and relative truth. As a Christian, I believe pretty heavily in very real truths. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through Him. But at the same time, in the different communication studies, I've begun to see some different sides to this discussion. And so today I thought we could talk about truth and why that matters with communication. So what are some thoughts that you have on that, Tim?
Truth is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. It hit me when I was even younger than I am now. We were watching a movie called Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid, and it's an older film, and it's about these two warring races, and they crash land on a planet, and these two guys, that's an alien and a human, and they learn to live with each other, and it becomes this whole story of brotherhood and all these things. But there's a scene in the film where the alien is teaching the human his language, and he's having him read from his religious text, and he's reading this verse of this text, and it basically says if someone, repays evil, if someone gives you evil, you don't repay evil in return. It's essentially, it was the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the human's reading this, and he's like, I've read this before, but in the human version of this text. And the alien says, of course you have, because truth is truth. And that stuck with me and changed me for such a long time. I was like, he's right. Truth is truth. It can't be anything but universal. If it's not a universal, then it's something less than truth. It becomes opinion, or it becomes like a relative philosophical thing, but truth is in itself absolute. So
I haven't seen the movie that you're referencing, but the concept that you're saying, I would tend to agree with. The reason why the relative truth discussion is important when it comes to communication, and this vlog of Communication Hack, is because if I'm trying to communicate something to somebody, but they understand things from a different point of view, from a different perspective, if I take the thought that what I have to say is truth, and so you just need to hear it and believe me, the likelihood is I'm not going to convince them or change their opinion, because the things that I'm talking about have different meanings to them. A good example, if I were to hold a fork up to you, just hold a fork. Imagine I've got a fork right here in my hand. It's a very shiny fork. We're going to call it a silver fork. Not a gold one, but a silver one.
Okay.
If I hold this fork up to you and I say, what is this? What are you going to say?
It's a fork.
And that's pretty true, right? And no matter what I say, that's always going to be a fork, right? But if I hold that same thing up to Ariel on Little Mermaid, what's she going to say?
Going to call it a spindle or something.
Dingle hopper.
Dingle hopper.
That's right. I think it's a dingle hopper. All those who love Little Mermaid and Disney are going to say something different. So it's a dingle hopper, because what Ariel grew up understanding that fork is a dingle hopper. What makes it a fork? What makes it a dingle hopper? It's just what we've assigned to it. Language is just a combination of symbols. I mean, that's all it is. So the symbol that was applied to that, as far as the word, is fork for us. But if you were to ask somebody in Spanish what that is, it looks like something different. If you'd ask somebody in Arabic, it's something different. And whatever they're talking about it being used for is going to be different in the different scenarios as well. For potter, they use that fork as a tool to carve different things in the side of a piece of clay. For Ariel, it's something to comb her hair, because that's what she grew up understanding it to be. If it's not being used as a fork for her, is it considered a fork still? Or is it a dingle hopper? It's relative. So if I'm trying to communicate something, I need to take the attitude that even though I might understand something to mean or be true as X, if I don't care the way that is understood to the person I'm communicating, or to the culture I'm communicating, or to the in the context of what I'm trying to communicate, I'm not going to succeed in communicating effectively.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that goes back to this conversation of a shifting from a linear belief system where, like what you're saying is like, I believe it's true, therefore it is true, or that like 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thought process, into where we are now, which is more of a network of belief, where we have this thing that we hold dear, but it's supported by all of these experiences and all these bits of knowledge. So in terms of truth, like if I were to go into a culture, I can't just say, you can't be doing this because this is why. That's not going to be enough. It would be like, hey, here's something that I believe to be true. Here's a bunch of different reasons why, and like here's some supports of people who have experienced it this way and things like that. So it's coming in with truth. You can't just put it out there. It has to be prepared in such a way where the audience can swallow it.
Yeah, so the hack for this particular episode, I think, when it comes to truth, because we're not going to solve the philosophical world discussion on truth and convince everybody, but from the communication hack side of things, I think the hack would be always recognize that other people understand things differently. And so when you communicate to help them understand, not just to cram your thought down their throat, because it's not going to work. Try to communicate in a way that's going to help them understand better, and you're going to be more successful in communicating in general. You almost have to look at each element of communication, whatever the content is you're trying to communicate, as a prism. And there's going to be different ways to view that prism. And you want to find out what way the person you're trying to communicate to views that prism, so that when you're communicating that prism, you're communicating it most effectively. Even the gospel is different in different cultures. You think about the message of Jesus Christ, and to the concept of Jesus being your deliverer, or Jesus being somebody who brings freedom and releases you from bondage. That means something very different to somebody who lives in a prison, or to somebody who lives in an abusive relationship, to somebody who lives in an oppressive culture, to somebody who's dealing with a sickness that has them in bondage. That concept of freedom and being released from bondage, or being delivered by Jesus Christ, is going to be different in each one of those contexts. He's still the truth, and he still is freedom, and he still represents freedom and release from captivity and all of those different wonderful things, but it's going to be very different for each individual that hears that message. And so understanding where your target audience is going to be very helpful in understanding how to communicate to them.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been Communication Hack. We encourage you to check out the website, communicationhack.com, and come back next time for more ComHack. Have a good day.